Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We're back.
Welcome back to the Fully Torque Show. I am Colin. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Cody.
And we don't have to apologize for extended absences.
This is true. We do not. So we're hopefully going to keep a regular schedule this time. We're excited to be back and kind of share a little bit of time with you guys talking about stuff. We have a few topics that we wanted to go over, specifically around probably video game stuff. We want to talk about the Ubisoft Quartz interesting note that's been going on, the YouTube change with the dislikes being removed from public view, and maybe some video games that are coming out and sort of what we've been playing. So I'm excited to jump into it.
We'll probably, since we're going on the bi-weekly, we can hold off for our game of the year and end of the year recap, because we did that the first year of the podcast, and that was fun.
It was, and we're actually recording the same night as the Game Awards, so we'll try and keep a little eye on that. It might actually be, just starting as we kind of wrap up. So worst case, we'll kind of discuss that after the fact, because there have been, at least in my opinion, a lot of good stuff that's come out this year, especially in the last month or two. I guess that makes sense.
It's been backloaded.
Yeah.
As usual, the November releases. I looked through the list of nominees, and I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty much what I would expect.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have some oddballs in there, but I thought it was pretty...
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't know how they're picked, but I know Jeff Keighley recently went on Twitter and gave like a pretty solid condemnation of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Especially with what's been going on with their company. I think we talked about it last time. In fairness, smarter people than me have talked about it too, so they could probably give better takes than I could really explain quickly.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a shit show.
I probably... just like you said, we probably won't hash the whole thing out, but as far as the context of the Game Awards, the way that I understand it is that Activision Blizzard's only involvement in this year's Game Awards is that they can be nominated.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think any representatives are attending, and they certainly can't win an award.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that part, I suppose.
Yeah, they can only be nominated. So,
because it's like you still want to give credit for all the developers' work, I would assume. Right.
It's a fine line between shitting on the people that have been working for years on, all these releases and updates, and not dismissing what was going on. So if you don't know what we're referring to, Google it, because we're not gonna hash it out.
Yeah, I don't.
Honestly, it's not even timely news at this point.
Sure.
The only reason we're talking about it is because the Game Awards, it came up again.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we'll just leave that there. I'll be interested to see what wins. I know there's been some. I feel like this has been the year of a lot of really great indie games.
Yep.
And I know there's a couple left coming out that I think look pretty good. So
I noticed that Cyberpunk was nominated for RPG of the Year.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting.
I guess it couldn't make it last year. So.
Yeah, well, so the category Game of the Year, or categories that encompass more than just are you the best game in this genre, or do you have the best sound design, or something really specific like that?
Yeah.
They have to consider all of that, right?
Yeah.
If you have an awesome game that is buggy, or an awesome game that has terrible sound design, or an awesome, really good gameplay, but the online services or something that you those are criteria for Game of the Year, right? It's not just best gameplay of the year, or best single player. It's everything, right?
Yeah.
So that pretty much disqualifies, I think, Cyberpunk.
I think it has to.
Yeah. So
I know, because looking at the list of nominees, because I'd taken a list of them as well. For me, I think the winner at least has to be It Takes Two.
Yeah.
To I don't know if you had a chance to play it.
I did. Yeah.
The fact that it's just super varied, and it just feels really genuine. I don't think I've played a game quite like it, except for A Way Out, but it's the same company, so that makes total sense. But it's hard to describe. But I really, really love that game.
To be fair, I didn't play all the nominees for Game of the Year, but that one's just a great one.
I think I played every single one, so that actually is interesting.
You played Deathloop.
I did. I played Deathloop. I played RE Village. I'm a Resident Evil sucker,
Yeah.
so we've talked about that on the pod before, so that was fun. To me, though, like, I don't know, and we can talk about stories a little bit more on different topics, but like the story has always been super dumb in those games, but it's fun to run around and shoot zombies or lichens in that game. So
Yeah.
And then Metroid's up. I like that game.
You played Metroid.
Yeah, I like that game. I thought it was good. If you love those types of games, I think that could easily be your game of the year. So, and then Rift Apart, which was fun. I love Ratchet and Clank. I've played them for forever, so that was a really, really solid game. But I think beyond being really pretty, it was great. It was fun to play, but I don't see it as like, to me, game of the year is like something that like you treat as like a benchmark for games in the same category. But it's also just a popularity contest at the end of the day. So
I think I just really got out of the loop this year with the CODs and the Halos and the AAA stuff.
Yeah.
That I really glossed a lot of those, but
understood.
honestly, the Game Awards nominees often serve as a list of a backlog for me.
Yeah,
you know,
for
because
sure.
I'm like, oh, okay. Like sometimes there's ones nominated that I haven't even heard of, but you know, and that's become more rare. But sometimes I can just use the nominees as like, all right, let's throw that in the Steam backlog.
For sure. I think that kind of bridges us nicely into talking about kind of what we have had time for.
Yep.
I know we talked about it before, but the release since we discussed that I think both of us have spent a fair amount of time with is Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, probably the most for me.
Yeah. So I think you've played it more than I have. So do you have like initial thoughts of what you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like for me, as far as things that I have spent the most time playing, like that's my favorite release from the year. It's amazing that they can keep it fresh with like, there's hardly any games that get to the 5th or 6th where it's like, you're not almost like mocking parts of it in a way.
Yeah.
But somehow they're pulling it off. I mean, it's just tastefully expanded on.
Yeah.
Without getting rid of all the fun core features that everyone likes. Like none of the main functionality has ever been taken out.
Yep.
Like you think of any game with 5 sequels, Halo, Gears of War, the big ones, they get fast and furious is what I call it. And it just gets so far off the rails it has nothing to do with the original one.
Right.
If you glanced at a screen of someone playing the first Forza Horizon, and then you glanced, you know, check over here, a guy's playing Forza Horizon 5, you might not even notice that it's a different game. But when you play, you'll definitely notice. And to me, that is like, that's the move right there.
Yeah, it feels incredible.
They haven't dismantled anything. It's just like, it's awesome. And the car catalog is great. The sound design is insane. I think it's actually a nominee for a sound design award.
You might be right. I can check that while we're discussing.
The sound design is just ridiculous. The granularity that goes into changing tiny engine parts, it changes the sound of your engine in a realistic way that it would on your actual car. And like that is just awesome to me. The kind of storyline missions are really interesting. They mix in a lot of kind of like theme park style things where you're doing jumps and activities and little mini games and stuff like that kind of break up the racing. And then you get a bulk of street racing and a bulk of dirt racing. And you can play any way you want and you're always rewarded for it, right? Like nothing in the game feels pointless or grindy. Like everything in the game gets you credits, rank, XP, sometimes even entire vehicles. Like everything is worth checking out in the game, which is rare.
Yeah. It's like one thing that I really have to applaud and agree with you on is to me, it fits in the same like vein as like an open world game, how you can traverse between races and stuff. And a lot of games that have open worlds have what I think of as like the Skyrim effect, where you essentially, when you're going between locations, there's not shit to do.
Right.
So you literally are just traveling between point to point. You end up fast traveling. You don't appreciate it, but they have so many little like Easter eggs and stuff to hunt along the map that it really encourages you to explore. It wants you to. And it's a world that I think deserves it, because it obviously
Yeah.
there's been a lot of love put into it. So
You
it's
get
really cool.
rewarded for literally aimlessly driving around.
Yep.
Like if you're driving through the woods or just like sliding around and like messing around in your car and checking out the map, you're sitting there getting skill chain bonuses, and sometimes you even get the skill song thing where you get a multiplier, and
Yep.
it's literally like nothing in the game is pointless. You can just slide around and not have any waypoint or anything you're doing, and you're progressing through the game. That's the best part of it for me.
Yeah, it's just such a great way to spend an hour or two kind of bouncing around. And, you know, if you're into racing games, I feel like it's already on your radar. But for anyone who's on the fence, it is just a lovely time. It is so fun to just jump in, and because it clearly loves the source material. It clearly
Yeah.
loves what it's doing. And it's I feel like it deserves every praise you can give it. And you are right. It is up for audio design.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. And the multiplayer too is really good. The way that you can kind of pop in and out. And I've noticed if I'm in a Discord chat with 3 or 4 guys playing, everyone will kind of go silent sometimes.
Yep.
And they're like concentrating on a skill chain or like messing with their car. So I'm like, hey, you guys there? Like, are we playing? Because it gets you. Like,
It's not a new feature, but I always love the drivatars.
Yeah.
It makes it feel a little more personal, because you
Yeah.
can see your friends list. They're not really there for people who haven't played, but it shows their cars. So it essentially kind of makes it feel like you're playing with your friends,
Yeah.
even if you're not actively doing it. I think that's a really nice little touch.
they've done a good job getting rid of griefing too online. Cars will ghost easier to where you'll just drive right through someone. So if you're cruising around somewhere and someone's going 200 miles per hour right up behind you, they're not going to bash you off the track. They'll just go right through you. So
Yeah, I've seen that. I had 1 or 2 times where it felt like someone was trying to run into my ass, but they
Yeah.
like just ran out to the side.
yeah,
so I got-
it almost has like grief detection, because if you're just racing and you're bumping a little, that's okay.
yeah.
But if you're like turned around completely backwards, or you're obviously not involved in the race and you're just slamming people, it'll
Yeah.
ghost you.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Super cool.
Yeah, it is. It's such a good time.
I
And-
played it on xCloud on my phone.
Really?
It was one of the only games that I tested out on the. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can sign up for the xCloud beta, and I streamed Forza Horizon on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. And
How was it?
It was. I mean, I had a hard time detecting any latency.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it was that good.
Yeah.
So
Does that remind me? Does that stream from your specific device, or it's just streaming from like a cloud?
yeah, it streams
Unit.
from Azure Cloud.
Yeah.
So Microsoft's cloud provider, just to your device.
That's awesome.
So I haven't. I don't think we've covered this in a couple episodes actually, so we won't go super into the pros and cons of cloud gaming, but it's still like a little impractical for me. Like there's only a few use cases where I'm
Yeah.
gonna like bust it out and sit there with a controller on my phone. But there's definitely, traveling, you're in a hotel room, all you have is a laptop, you can play Forza. Like, it might not be the same experience that you get sitting at your console or your PC at home,
It's close.
but it's good enough to get you by while you're in a hotel for a weekend, on a work trip, whatever. Like, it is to that point, I think.
I think that's a huge leap from
Yeah.
even when we talked about it, because when Stadia was coming out, it was all just, nothing had really done it well, and Stadia didn't do it
Yeah,
well.
it wasn't a good experience.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I kind of wanted it to succeed, but it sounds like xCloud and other services, because I think Sony's working on one as well. So
Yeah.
they'll be fun to see. So I think cloud gaming is just the wave of the future. I feel like you can't get away from it.
Yep.
I was looking through the audio design nominees, and it occurs to me that one game that I really like that we actually didn't talk about because it came out kind of in our break was I have a PlayStation 5, and the game Returnal. Have you played that, or do you know much about it?
Yeah. I haven't played it, but I'm familiar with it.
Dude.
And I don't have a PS5.
Yeah. So I am a huge roguelite fan, if I haven't mentioned that before. I loved Hades last year. That was probably my game of the year. So Returnal is in that same vein for anyone who's not familiar. But I think that game has some of the best sound design I have ever heard, as far as like being aware of like where enemies are and like the feedback you get from your weapons. And it is such a good selling point for the PlayStation 5 controller, because
Oh, yeah.
it like has, because of how the vibration motors work, like every gun feels different in your hand. It becomes clear, like, because you have your normal firing and then you have like a secondary fire for every gun, and you feel a certain motion when that recharges.
Yeah.
So it just feels so good to run around and play that game. So I just wanted to give it a huge mention, because I think it's in the same vein as like those bullet hell style games, like Enter the Gungeon, if anyone has played that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's easy to see because they're not like, the enemies do shoot range stuff, but they're like big blobs almost that you can like dodge through, and you have invincibility frames. So it's like, once you kind of get the idea behind like how the combat loop works, it is so satisfying to run around, and to be fair, it's nails hard. If I have like a critique of it, it's that the runs are really long. So like, if you're doing Binding of Isaac, like, a run could be an hour, right? Like some of them, but not all of them are.
Or 5 seconds.
Or 5 seconds if you're really shit,
Yeah.
which I can be. So with Returnal, I feel like your smallest run is going to be like an hour and a half.
Wow.
Like, and they can go longer than that. Like, it feels like a lot of time invested. But the problem, I think, is not that, because obviously you can suspend it and come back. It's that there's not a whole lot of carryover when you do die. So when you use weapons, you unlock new like abilities that they can have, like passives. But when you do die, like, you don't like take a lot of, except for experience and like your own personal skill, really nothing comes with you. You still have to pick everything back up. So there's not like a lot of permanence to it. Like, you just kind of do your loop, and then you kind of have to restart from scratch after that, which can be kind of demoralizing when they're that long. So it's just a game that I play like a loop or two. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to play this for another month.
And you noticed how good the sound was, like, beforehand. Like, you felt that before you even, like...
Dude, it's hard to describe. Like, I'm kind of if a game's sound, like, really grabs me, it really pulls me in, because to me, like, if you talk about movies or stuff, I think sound is like 60% of the experience, and I think for games, like, it's a lot of the same idea. And we can talk about that in a second, about a game that just came out that I think does it pretty well so far. But
what do you use sound wise on the PlayStation? Like, do you have...
I have it hooked up to, so I have a receiver here that's hooked up to a set of bookshelves.
So you're running your PlayStation through your normal audio setup?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, like, I don't have the full 5.1. I just have a 2-channel. But even that, like, I can pretty easily tell stuff behind me. I can tell if it's coming from, like, obviously the sides is easy, but it gives great indication for that. So because a lot of it becomes like crazy. So those bullet hell games, especially because you're like really close in on your character, it can be difficult to see like where all this shit's coming from, because there's so much of it.
Yep.
So the fact that it's not just your eyes anymore, you have a secondary set of senses that you can use to your advantage. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. So it reminds me of this other little game that I play on Steam called Devil Daggers. I think it's like $5. I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but it's essentially like a gauntlet style, just see how long you can survive. But it does that really well too, of like, just there's so much shit on the screen. It's like being able to tell where stuff is, like once you get a feel for like what's there, it's like a sixth sense, your third eye opens.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. So
yeah, when you get into the roguelike flow, it's almost like you're plugged in.
It's
like,
addictive. Yeah. I like it a lot. Where it becomes like instinctual, the movement and all that. So I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to give it a mention, because I really think it's worth your time if anyone was curious. It's a little steep. I think it's still, actually, it goes on sale pretty often, but for full price, especially, if you're not into the roguelite formula, I could see it not being your thing. But
did they release it on previous gen?
No, it's just a PS5 game, so it's only playable there, which is unfortunate. But to me, like, the DualSense controller is such a game changer. Like, I kind of see where they're coming from, especially because the company who made it, Housemarque, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, they're Australian people.
Series X and PS5s are easier to get now than 30 series cards, right?
They are. So from my understanding, like with the Black Friday sales, the easiest to get device was a Series X.
Yeah.
So, that's the smaller one, the Series S.
Series S, yeah.
That was the most sold console, or I think a technological unit for the Black Friday sale, which I think is great. I mean, it's obvious that like they probably had the most like stock to sell, but people aren't buying shit they don't want.
Yeah.
So
I think the whole Series S and Series X thing is kind of interesting marketing wise, especially now that they're fully in stock. Because if you're someone that is, if you know enough to like look at restocking feeds and like updated pages of what's going on, then you know the difference in the S and the X and you know what you're getting. If you're someone that just walks into Target and buys a game console, or maybe is like buying a Christmas present for your kid or whatever, you really might not know. You just say like, oh, that's the new Xbox, right? So that I think is probably intentional from Microsoft, but like unclear like what part of that is good and bad for the consumer. Like,
sure, yeah.
It's good that it's cheaper, but it's bad that it's unclear of what the difference is. You know, it's almost like iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro. Your average person that's not into consumer technology, they go into the phone store and they're like, I need a new phone. What's the new iPhone?
Right.
Oh, the newest one's 12. Okay, I'll take that.
Give me that bad
There's
boy.
a 12 Pro, there's a 12 Pro Max or whatever. There's, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing with the Xbox. Like if grandma just goes to Target, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Before it wasn't like that. It was like Xbox 360. If you don't think about the elites and all that kind of stuff, the Xbox One's the Xbox One. There's granular differences between Xbox One editions. There's a huge difference between the Series S and Series X.
For sure.
They're like almost not even the same thing, right? So,
yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, because it is a huge boon to them to have them in store, but yeah, I could see people getting really upset that that's what they end up with.
Like the Series X is the Series X and the PS5 is the most cost-effective and accessible way right now to 4K 60 frame full tilt game.
Yeah. And there's a lot of benefit to that, especially like if games are made for that platform. We mentioned the new Ratchet and Clank game. Playing that, it is almost game changing how fast you can be in there, and like levels loading, you like step on a rift and like 3 seconds later you're in the level. There's no loading screen. You just like go through this animation and you're in a whole new map. Like they could optimize it perfectly for that console. That's crazy.
I love that. Yeah. Because like you don't get that on PC, even if you're decked out. I mean, you're always dealing with Windows, you're always dealing with this and that, and like even if you've got the best overkill gaming rig ever, it's a game that is specifically built for a certain set of hardware and a controller that's designed for a certain set of hardware and an interface, and everything around it is designed for this one experience. It's not this. It's a different deal.
You know what that reminds me?
It's not better or worse.
It's just different.
It's different.
Yeah. It just reminds me of recently with the Halo release, my first experience with loading into multiplayer was not good.
Did you play on PC?
I play it on PC.
I can't play Halo with a mouse and keyboard.
Really?
And I play all first-person shooters with a mouse and keyboard.
You just don't like the feel of it?
I've been playing Halo for 20 years with a controller.
It's just
instinctual. Literally, because I thought about it. Halo CE came out when I was about 8 or 9. I'm 29. So give or take 20 years, I've been playing Halo with a controller. Like, consistently. Like, I don't think a year's gone by that I just didn't play Halo for the whole year. You know what I mean? Like, that's my game. So, like, I just can't shake it. Just the way that... So in a Call of Duty or your typical first-person shooter, the way that you move is a little more... You're not bouncing off of stuff and grappling off of stuff and flying around. You're moving, you're dodging, ducking a little bit, aiming, and you're good. Halo, I'm bouncing grenades around corners, turning around really quick, jumping, sliding, moving, and I'm so used to it on the controller that I just like I can't. I'm half. Even if I got used to the controls, I'm like half the player.
Yeah.
So
it's just so instinctual at a point with the controller.
yeah, like my KD is like 50% worse on a mouse and keyboard.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's super. So I think that's one huge like remark for this game is that it's, you know, a solid decade after the last Halo, but it feels
It's so
like
good.
Halo.
We can
Dude,
talk. Let's talk about Halo.
Let's talk about Halo. We can talk about the multiplayer first.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that loading into it was not great. I had like 2 crashes when I first got in, but if we look past that, the experience of playing it has been really good.
Oh yeah,
really good.
I was so like, I almost got a little emotional about it.
Yeah.
like I was like, this is Halo,
Yeah.
because I haven't had that in so long. Like probably since Halo 3 or maybe a little bit of Halo 4. That Halo feeling where it's like, this is core Halo gameplay with awesome quality of life features. That's all I need. I don't need a bunch of crazy stuff. Halo's Halo, right? It's got that core, the crisp battle rifle gameplay, the competitive style gameplay, the movement is smooth. There's nothing sort of out of place, like the weird power-ups and stuff. The power-ups are all like very useful to me. Like the grappling hook's cool, and you don't have it
Functional.
all the time. It's not being spammed everywhere, right? Like it's just a little touch on top of the classic Halo recipe. It's not, we've dumped a new stick of butter into the Halo recipe. It's just a little you know
It's
what
a
I mean?
spice.
Like it's hard to explain unless you're a Halo player, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got that, it's Halo. The multiplayer, I love the ranking system. It's really nuanced. I like, they kind of did the Rocket League thing or the League of Legends thing. And man, it's just, I couldn't be happier with it.
Yeah, I agree. The act of playing it is just such a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's fun just to run around. There were issues. I would say there probably still are issues with the battle pass.
Yeah.
With you know, how long it takes to unlock certain metrics or certain
Yeah.
unlockables, but I think they've done some good things with it. They've changed it to where you get the most experience you'll get for the first game you play, and it gradually goes down from there.
Yeah.
So it's like you get 300 experience, if I remember correctly, for first game.
Yeah.
And it kind of moves down from there. I think that's a good move.
Right.
But
There was a little bit of fussing about like if there was a Reddit post that went viral about how if you were to buy all of the in-game purchases, it would be about $1,700.
Oh, that's
And
cheap.
it's like, that's crazy, but they're all cosmetics that you don't need. Like you could be the best player in the game with the highest rank and have the stock skin. Like it's just, it doesn't matter. Like in COD, the battle pass affects gameplay.
Yeah,
because
you
you
get-
have all these crazy builds and stuff that you can't get unless you have the battle pass and all these like exclusive weapons and everything like that. In Halo, you just or you're a different color, so like it literally doesn't matter.
I'm shit brown, baby.
Yeah, like, oh no, like I'm being shot by the guy that's orange, or you know, it's like they look cool and like some of the skins are cool and the weapon skins are cool, but like no one is at a disadvantage for not having them. If you know what I mean?
Sure,
So-
definitely. Yeah, that's. I think there's a lot to say for that. It's there's no fundamental.
Overwatch.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
yeah, I agree, and I played a lot of Overwatch, so
Yeah.
I remember those.
It doesn't
Those
mean you don't want the
unlockables.
fancy skins.
Fuck yeah.
Because of course you do.
Yeah,
Everyone does.
I want the gold weapons, baby.
But you don't need.
No, that's true. Yeah, they want you to buy them
Yeah.
clearly, so I understand. But as of when we're recording, the campaign has been out for I think like 24
Yeah.
hours.
Yep.
So I have played the first 2 hours of it. So
I told you I was going to play last night, and I updated Warzone.
Have you played that yet?
Yeah, I played one round of it. We can talk about it later.
okay,
And then I updated Vanguard to try to play Champion Hill, and like never even got, like I was sitting there staring at progress bars all night and never played anything.
I hate how fucking long that stuff takes anymore.
So what do you think of the campaign?
So, I walked into it with like as few expectations as I could throw at it as someone who really likes Halo. I was just trying to walk in and there are a couple little things that I could say about it, but I think just what I have to say up front is it was the first mission alone is so good. It is
Really?
such a good intro back into Halo. So right off the bat, you're placed onto a giant ship similar to the Pillar of Autumn. This one's called the Infinity. And you run around and you have the grappling hook right away. It does such a good job of giving you plenty of space to experiment. You're allowed to just run around and see what guns you like. They have a lot to play with right away. And I think one thing they nailed is this spectacle. So I guess I could talk about it. Like, you end up blowing up this ship.
Yeah.
And as it starts crumbling, you have to jump over these, as the building starts to fall apart, you have to jump over pieces of it as they like start falling into place, and they are massive. It feels like this giant structure that you're placed into that you're just scrambling to get away from as fast as you can. And it's something to say about, like, I was smiling the whole time,
Yeah, it
like
gives you
by
that
myself.
epic Halo feel.
Yeah, I was reminded of Halo 3 when you're in a warthog, trying to
That's
escape.
what it sounds like. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was such a nice touch, like being able to do that. So the grappling hook, because it's permanent in the campaign, you have like a cooldown that I think you can upgrade, and you can have more charges. But the fact that you can use it for mobility, you can use it as a combat option, because you mentioned it's obviously in the multiplayer, but the fact I can use it to get to a more advantageous position, I can use it to stun my enemies, I can pick up weapons at a distance, is such a nice addition to the game. And it feels good to use it. Like, the act of flying through the air doesn't feel awkward. It feels like this natural sort of arc.
I even felt like that with multiplayer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, I feel like the function of playing Halo is just such a pleasure. Like, regardless of what you feel about the campaign, because to be honest, the storyline, like the bad guy in there, is really boring to me so far. He's just like the generic evil idiot bad guy, and like I don't really care.
Yeah,
it's just fun to get in there and move around, and it's just such a dream, man. It really, really is.
Most of the review pages I've read have been 9s, some 10s. Like, it's going over really well.
And I think,
and let's not forget the big delay situation and everything. Like, they really came through and they listened,
Yeah, which I feel like that's been nothing but a good thing.
Props
that
to
game,
343.
It feels like it needed that extra year.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, just I think people say the same thing about Cyberpunk, is I'd rather get a delayed game than no game at all. Like,
well, all of the backlash was just from a gameplay video.
Yeah.
Like, it was nothing, So, like, they were like, okay, give us another year. And they did it.
Yeah.
Can't complain about that at all.
Yeah, because I think you look at the flip side of that would be Battlefield 2042, where it releases without a campaign. There's all sorts of bugs, glitches. It doesn't even have a KD screen.
They got rid of the whole squad dynamic thing. That's that's Battlefield. Like,
yeah, that is what you call a Battlefield.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're sorry that you missed these legacy features. It's like, bitch, that's the game.
Yeah.
Imagine if you didn't have an overshield in Halo.
Yeah.
You had Call of Duty time to kills.
Yeah,
It's just so stupid. But I don't know, man. Like, Halo is on Games Pass. Everyone knows about it. If you haven't tried it out yet, please, for the love of God, give it a whirl.
I was so skeptical of it. Right all the way up to it. I didn't have a expectation for it. I was like, it's a 343 Halo. Let's just see what happens. And I love it.
Yeah, and so...
And I did not like Halo 5.
It was ass. It was not good. I think they're still growing pains for 343. I think that they're really, really solid on the gameplay front. Yet again, I think that just that part of it, if you're a mechanical player and that's really all you're interested in, I think it's got it nailed down to a T. But they tried to do some interesting quote unquote stuff for Halo 5 with the story, how they wanted to make Master Chief the bad guy for a little while. But this feels really safe.
Yeah,
and this feels really safe. Like, you're on another Halo ring. you are fighting just the quintessential, he's just a bad guy. You know what I mean?
A
There's
Halo or a Kotaku article that I read earlier just demolished the intro to the campaign. Like the guy, like who I'd have to bring the article back up, but he hated it.
Really?
He was just saying like he was upset because there was some cinematics that would like require you to know things about the story from like Halo Wars and Halo 5, and like he was like so upset that they assumed you would know storylines from those shitty games that no one played and stuff like that, and he was just so offended by that. But
that's an interesting point of view because
it's Kotaku.
it's true.
Yeah.
I didn't get that vibe very much. I feel like it does expect you to know like some of the major factions. Like it expects you to know who the Covenant are. It expects you to know like the races of like the aliens. Like
That's pretty par for the course to me.
I think so. It's the sixth major sequel in a huge franchise.
Yeah.
So, but I don't feel like if you didn't know those things, it would be unplayable.
Yeah.
I think those just enhance your viewing.
Yeah, I mean, right. Like not knowing that wouldn't like ruin the fact that you're like flying through space shooting aliens. Like don't overthink it.
I mean, the campaign in a nutshell is you are a soldier and you're trying to kill people who are trying to kill you.
It's Halo.
It's Halo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
The Halo
rocket
lore
science.
nerds are gonna flay us for this, but
I think there's a lot of depth to it.
Halo stories is. I mean, I've read Halo paperbacks. Like it's got a really interesting story.
I would agree. Yeah.
But I mean, a reference here and there is not gonna upset me.
I mean, it's not The Witcher. I mean,
Yeah.
like Halo has a really great story. You mentioned it. Even having the books is really cool. But like the lore in the game, just it's not that, and it doesn't want to be that. And that to me is totally acceptable. It wants to be an accessible shooter.
Yeah.
It reminds me kind of how Dark Souls does a lot of its storytelling, where a lot of it's environmental. I mean, there are like logs in this new Halo that you can pick up and like listen for like backstory and stuff, which is cool. But I don't feel like that's essential.
You
for
can
your
enjoy
experience.
Halo knowing that you're playing as a super soldier fighting aliens.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That's enough to enjoy the game.
Yeah, and Master Chief,
It's
I
fun
think,
to go deeper,
for sure.
but that's enough.
And that's what he's built for.
Yeah.
He's like a very close to mute avatar
Yeah.
that you're supposed to inhabit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be sort of your story, right? Like he doesn't take on too much of a personality because that's for the player. And even Bungie said that back in the day. Like that was the whole point.
Which makes total sense. So and again, it's like if you're playing this game and you know shit about the story, you're still gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
If you don't know shit about the Witcher story, you're gonna be confused as all hell.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like a huge difference,
Yeah.
like in approach to how you want to experience the game.
Totally agree. I
So-
like the Witcher analogy.
Yeah. Again, it's there are nitpicks. I feel like everyone's gonna have nitpicks, but I think the overwhelming majority has been, for me at least, really positive. So
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate last night. I spent messing with COD so much, but I did drop into one Warzone
New map.
in the Pacific, and it's exactly what you probably think it is. I mean, it's
So I've heard that the biggest thing people are really excited about is that it's actually lit. It's
Yeah.
not just a brown hellhole.
yeah, no, it's like interesting environments, like it's flourishing with trees and little like the buildings are nice and detailed and have furnishings, and it's not just a gray like PUBG shitscape.
That's right.
So, and they added in like combat planes and that like take off like planes on a runway. It's not just like a linear helicopter, and they added like some different drop types and stuff like that. And right now they have Vanguard Royale, so all the map weapons and your loadout weapons are required to be Vanguard guns. So it's
Sure.
like all World War II. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Don't love Vanguard. We don't have to hash that out. It's COD.
We can. I mean, we can talk really quick.
It's COD. Like they crank them out every year. The same problem with Madden and the same problem with like the sports games, and it's just
Cookie cutter.
it's just rinse and repeat. I don't know who was asking for World War II COD. I don't know who is asking for them to remove gunfight. So there's this mode, Champion Hill is the
2v2, 2v2v2, right?
Yeah, and also they have a 3v3 mode. So basically the way it works is there's like 6 teams, this big arena, but it's like 5 small maps in an arena, and they're sectioned off. And then there's buy rounds. So each team has a certain number of lives, and when you run out of lives, you're out. And it encourages everyone to just hide to preserve their lives instead of trying to win the rounds. And you basically, each round you're playing a different team in the match. So there's 6 teams of 2.
You rotate
and
around.
you rotate and like round robin fight each team until there's only one team standing. So I don't know what was wrong with plain old gunfight. I loved it.
Apparently a lot.
Yeah, like play one team best of 6 every single time. You have the same loadout every single time. Like there's all these weapon upgrades and stuff, and different teams are going to have, like, you might run into somebody with a totally maxed out gun, and you've been buying armor plates and what, like, it's just too many unnecessary variables, too complicated. I loved gunfight. It was like the best thing Call of Duty has done in years for me. Little competitive arena style, and for some reason it's missing from Vanguard.
It sounds to me like that's filling a need that Big Team Battle fills.
Well, it's bizarre because the sub maps inside the Champion Hill map could each be gunfight maps,
and they're not linked.
but you only get to play one round in the map, and then you get round robin to something else.
I don't like that.
It's a different team and a different map every 2 minutes.
It feels like the people who do well are at a higher advantage always. Like
Well,
if you
you
win
can't
the
get
first,
in a rhythm.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be like if you were playing a basketball game and you're in a big arena with 10 basketball courts, and after one team gets up by 10 points, you jump over to the other court and start playing another team.
Yeah, you can't learn your opponents. Like
Yeah.
you can't mind game them.
You can't strategize. You can't get in a rhythm. Everyone has different weapons bouncing back and forth. Like, that was the point of gunfight. It was perfectly balanced, like man versus man. Mm-hmm. So I really don't like it.
Which is, yeah, that's a huge shame, because I
Yeah.
feel like that was like one of the most easily distilled, or like most distilled, like pure skill environments.
There's too many cool, interesting games in everyone's backlog to be sitting around playing COD.
I agree.
I mean, sorry.
Hey, listen, I didn't say it. It just
Alright.
happened near me.
It's just, that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's better shooters.
Yeah.
Halo exists.
There's better everything.
Yeah, if you really want a really high skill shooter, I mean, you could always go play Counter-Strike if you're really in that mood.
COD's going to have to do something. Like, the Warzone brand has just taken them to a whole new level, and it's probably the most popular game on earth right now, especially after the refresh. If you flip on Twitch and sort by view count, the first 10 are going to be people playing Warzone right now. Sometimes you'll mix in a little League of Legends with that because it just is consistently, like, very popular for streaming. But it's kind of a shame to get that, patterned out game every single year, and you have all these cool game studios doing innovative things with interesting titles, indies, and then we're playing COD.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's a lot of really, really good options that are out.
Yeah.
So. I see what you're saying. Speaking of that, the releases, I think it's worth talking about stuff that's coming out for the rest of the month. One thing is we could talk about stuff that's already released. So, one, I'm sorry to say I have not been able to get into Endwalker yet. The queue has been a nightmare.
Really?
So, yeah,
Still.
it's been full every time I tried to log in, and I've been kicked out of the queue a couple times, and I just did not want to sit through it again. So I have heard nothing but good things, and it sounds like, and I would agree with this sentiment, that people are they're okay with it. Like, it's totally understandable that this is, you know, a game that people are hugely stoked for. So the servers are just, you know, they're overloaded.
Yeah.
So it seems really, really, really good. It got to a point that the queue time was longer than the amount of people that could fit into the server, if I remember correctly.
That's crazy.
So unbelievable stuff, which is really wild.
That's sort of like some New World stuff.
Yeah.
And there was an Amazon outage. Yeah,
3 days ago, 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah. It was on Tuesday, and the Alexas went down, Ring doorbells, New World went down, like, because it was AWS, so it's all hosted on there. So,
Dude, speaking, I'm sorry, I have to bring up New World again. The numbers for that game don't look good.
they like went like this.
Their percentage, like, they had 1 million people who played it the first day it came out, you know, concurrently. They sit now at 10% of that, which
Yeah.
is still a big number.
Yeah.
But it's not impressive to me to pick up a lot of people. It's impressive if you keep them.
I don't really know what happened. Like, I don't really have a problem with New World. I enjoy it. I think there was just too many interesting releases going on for me to, like, if I'm playing an MMO, that's like all I'm playing, really. Like, it's pretty hard for me to just like flex in and out of it because there's a lot of stuff going on. And I guess, I don't know, like, everyone I know that played New World a lot at release, like, I haven't heard a peep from them.
It just seems like I liked it too. I didn't fall in love with it by any stretch, but I like the loop. I think it's good to play, but the overwhelming consensus is that there's really not enough content.
Yeah.
And the bugs around it have essentially crippled the economy. So it's just really, really a difficult choice to get into unless you're really interested in just like running around and enjoying the crafting experience of it, because I think that's good.
It's one of those games that's going to be good a year, 2 years from now.
I totally agree. I think the question is just, is it going to...
It's going to Destiny
Yeah.
at some point. So
Yeah. You think like free to play, or
well, it's
just
like
revitalized?
yeah, it's got all of the core elements there to where if they just kind of improve on in-game content and improve on, you know, some of the economy balancing stuff and some of the loot variety and enemy variety and stuff like that, like the dungeons suck
Yeah.
and the rating sucks.
Yeah.
So that's all like easy DLC stuff, you know.
All that was built, I think, within the last year.
Yeah.
Because it was just a PvP straight up type of game.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to lose everything when you died.
Because the environment and the character specking and like the play style and all that's great. So like it's literally just stuff to do. So it's one of those games that's a perfect candidate for like, give us a year of DLC and like this game's gonna be completely different.
Yeah.
That's how Destiny 2 was.
Sure.
Like, Destiny 2 wasn't great at launch.
I feel like Destiny 1 had the exact same problem.
And like it's a completely different game now. So
Yeah, Destiny 2 is okay. I could talk about how terrible the new player experience is for Destiny 2, but I feel like if you can learn what the fuck it's asking of you, it's an incredible game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like the experience of walking in and you're hit with the gibberish of like the main menu and what you're supposed to do.
Well, and if you're playing with a Destiny player who's like really into it, they're like, dude, all you have to do is you
you just need to do your strikes every day.
Yeah.
You need to do X, Y. It's like, sir, what is a strike?
Oh, you mean you haven't deconstructed
Your Ingram? Sir, what is that?
Yeah, that'll be New World. So.
Yeah, I think so too. But it'll be interesting, like you said, in a year to check on that bad boy, see how it's cooking. So
We can play Forza until then.
that's right. That's what I'm saying, dude. Or just Halo Online, Halo multiplayer. So that I would love to talk about as soon as I have a chance. Solar Ash came out on the 2nd, which is made by the same team who did Hyperlight Drifter, which is a really great little indie game.
Yeah.
So this looks Shadow of the Colossus inspired. Haven't had a chance to touch it yet. It looks great. If you liked Hyperlight, my understanding is this is a good game. It is not as exceptional as some people found, like the understated story that Hyperlight had, but everything I've heard is great. So
Cool.
I'm excited to give that one a whirl. Infinite is out yesterday, And another one I want to give a shout out to is a game that comes out on the 15th called Aeterna Noctis, which it's a Metroidvania. It's a 2D style where everything's hand-drawn, which I really like the look of that. It's very much influenced by Hollow Knight from the look of it. I'm a big Hollow Knight fan.
Yeah, I love it.
So I am excited to give it a whirl. It looks very much like fans of Hollow Knight. I'll say that.
Okay.
Like a lot of the upgrades remind me very specifically of equipping charms. So hopefully it's good. It looks cool. So I haven't heard much about it beyond that, but it looks like a really sweet little game. So cool platforming. I think as long as they nail that movement and some of the boss fights, it'll be a good time. So those are the ones I'm excited about. Is anything coming out that you'd like to highlight?
Not other than what we've already mentioned. I mean,
yeah.
I think next show we'll probably go over our year-end recap.
We will. Yep. In that case, I think it's worth talking about just what we've kind of been playing beyond, if there's any special shout outs you want to give. I could start. Is there anything else, anything specific you want to talk about? There was one game that I've been playing recently that I wanted to give a shout out to that I don't feel like it kind of went under the radar for a lot of people, is the new Sherlock Holmes game. It's called Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1.
Nice.
I've never really played them before. They're all made by like this one company called Frogwares. This is like, it's like open world kind of. I don't really give a shit about that. It's fun to run around and like solve these cases, and some of them actually are they do require you to kind of think through it logically. Like they don't just give you every answer to what you're looking for. So
is this like out of your backlog or recent?
This just came out.
Okay.
It came out like less than a month ago.
Okay.
So I've put like 20 hours into it, and I'm like near the end, I think, but like near the end of the main quest. There's a lot of like side quests you can do, and I've been really enjoying going around doing that. One thing that I really think is cool about it too is like when you do complete quests or cases, whatever you want to call them, you'll usually have like a couple suspects that are like possible that they've done it, but the game doesn't like ever make you feel bad or like tell you if you chose incorrectly, because they all make sense to a degree. So like there's some of them there clearly is like, hey, this person did it. It had to be them. But there's some where like once you reason through it, the game doesn't tell you if you're wrong or right. Even like if you chose the other option, it's never going to tell you like, oh, that was totally wrong. You fucked it up, you idiot. I just think that's cool. Like it encourages you to kind of think for yourself and see what makes sense to you. So I think it's worth a try if you like detective style games. I think there's some times where it holds your hand a little much, but I think the combat is horrible. It's real bad. But there's not a lot of that.
I can't believe the Sherlock Holmes call.
Can you believe the shooting in Sherlock sucks?
I'm appalled.
Yeah, it's not good. And so don't go to it looking for a Rudy Tooty Shooty kind of game, but if you want a little detective style game, I think it's worth a look. It's a good choice.
Very good. Out of my backlog, I've been hitting some Deep Rock Galactic.
Fuck yes.
Awesome game.
It's just coming to, I think, Switch. It like
I didn't
just
know
came
that.
to Switch.
That's cool, yeah. It's one that I just overlooked for a while. A buddy of mine got me into it, and it's got a great, like, it's like deep enough, but you can jump right in and out of it, you know? So fun.
It's like one of those games that is obviously built from the ground up with playing with your friends.
Yeah.
Like when you're in the lobby waiting to like embark on your missions, you can go over and just have beers and dance around and shit. It is so good.
Yeah,
I love the hell out of that game.
It's kind of like so you're like dwarves that are going on mining excavation trips, and whenever you get in there, you're typically looking for like a certain amount of a certain resource, and you have a little like robot companion, and we always call it the dog. Like whenever we're playing, we're like, where's the dog? And you can summon it by throwing down a stake, and it'll come and you can unload what you've looted. And then sometimes you'll get missions with mechanics where you have to like connect pipelines together, and it's just great. procedural, I guess, or are they?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So it is procedurally generated.
All the classes synergize so well together. The one I've played the most is the Scout, which is like you can grapple around the place and you can throw big flares for
Yeah.
people to see shit.
I'm always a gunner.
There you go.
You just
so
blast
you can throw turrets
shit.
and
Yeah.
beat shit up. There's
Yeah.
the guy who can drill through anything.
Yeah.
I think that's the engineer.
Yeah,
It is so good.
yeah. That one, and then a little bit of Poly Bridge too. I've been hitting.
My God.
Have you played that one?
I love Poly Bridge.
Yeah, so it's definitely an engineering game for nerds. It's not. That's just what it is.
I love it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
And we're both actually engineers. Not that type though.
Right. But I took enough mechanical classes. I should be better, but I'm AIDS at that game. I'm so bad.
I'm terrible at it, but it's fun.
It is a good time.
Every time I think I have a nice design, I look up that level on YouTube, and there's a guy who's an actual civil structural engineer in real life, and he plays that game, and he shares his designs, and they're like so much more efficient than mine. Use like half the parts, and they're like half the cost, and he
Yeah.
just drives right across them. And
Yeah.
mine just has all these trusses like clustered up, and it like barely like clunks across. But it's so good.
Yeah, I love those games that like they ask a little bit of you, like, you know, you just get from point A to point B, however it makes sense.
Yeah.
I love just being able to kind of think of my own stupid ass solution. So
Yeah.
it's a great time. I love that too. So glad you've been enjoying it.
And honestly, I've been sprinkling in a little bit of Valorant here and there.
Oh,
yeah. It's I don't know. It is what it is.
Have you been liking it?
I like it in doses, and then I like rage quit.
It's anger inducing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. That's a good way to say it. Like,
Yeah.
like I start to get in a rhythm, and I'm like, I think I'm good, and I'm like, I can play this game, and then I just like and the rounds are long. Like you have to commit to playing for like 30 minutes.
It's like CSGO. Yeah. How
And-
long it takes.
I'll just get like 0-8'd or whatever, and I'm like,
Yeah. I don't know if I have the temperament to learn that game personally.
League of Legends does the same thing to me. Counter-Strike does the same thing to me. So
Yep. Speaking of League, that actually reminds me. Did you watch Arcane?
no, but I've had it recommended to me constantly.
It's good.
I've heard it is great.
I don't give a shit about League of Legends. I don't know
That's
anything
what they were
about it.
saying. They were like, just watch it.
Yeah. I haven't finished it, but I'm halfway through the season, and I've just been genuinely impressed. I like the art style a lot.
Yeah.
First off, but the story feels pretty good.
During COVID, at the beginning of all the supply chain issues, I bought the Secret Labs chair. And
Did you really?
Colin, I thought you knew about this, the League chair.
Yeah.
Because
you did tell me about this.
Because they had no colorways of just like gray or blue or whatever, and literally the only one they had that shipped within 3 months was the League of Legends 2019 World Championship edition.
yeah.
And I've played League like twice in my life,
So
but I have a $500 League of Legends chair.
So it was the obvious choice.
Yeah.
The 2-player League of Legends.
Yeah, and like every now and then, like I'll have someone over to the house and they're like, "Oh wow, like you must be like a
LCS,
hardcore like League player." I'm like, "It's the only color they had, baby."
Yeah. So it seems like it's right up your alley as
Yeah.
a huge fan.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So I feel like it kind of made the rounds. It was all over Twitter, at least the people.
I'm
I
gonna
follow.
watch it. Have
Yeah.
you seen Star Wars Visions?
No, is that good?
So it's on Disney Plus. It's the Star Wars anime,
What?
and it is awesome.
You're a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah, and I'm not really a huge anime fan. Like I
neither.
When I was a teenager, I would watch, like the big ones. I've seen Cowboy Bebop and
The classics.
stuff like that, but it is great. And I do have a Star Wars fan bias, but each episode is self-contained, so it's not like a series.
That's cool.
Each episode is a completely different like producer and artist. Like they have a totally different art style and a totally different characters, and they're all like a mini story for each episode.
So it's an anthology. Does it take place over like a certain era? Or it's
They're all
literally bouncing?
completely disconnected from each. Like they have each episode has nothing to do with each other.
Is it like stories that have been told, or
Totally,
they're totally
new stuff. Yeah, and like I don't know if it's considered canon. It should be since it's Disney, but I haven't really looked into it because some of it's like crazy stuff
What
that
happens?
like wouldn't ever happen in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like the first episode is like a ninja spaghetti western. So
I
like
love that.
yeah, it's like a black and white samurai story, and like the main samurai in the town is a Jedi, and like he pulls out like his samurai look, like the hilt looks like a samurai sword, but it's a lightsaber.
What the?
So
That's cool.
it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like it's this guy that I work with was telling me about it, and he was like, "That's the best Star Wars thing I've ever seen was that ninja episode."
Sure.
And then the second episode is about guys in a rock and roll band that play for Jabba the Hutt. So it's just like completely like one of them's like this dark kind of serious samurai story, and it's got kind of like a lighthearted ending.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next episode is like Pokemon.
I love that.
Like it's fucking weird.
I think that's great.
It's cool. And you know, there's one about twins that are like powerful, like galactic conqueror type guys, and they're twins, and it's all over the place, but it's worth a watch.
Dude, I'm all in. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me, God, I even said I'm not a huge anime fan, but I'm going to bring one up. One of the ones I watched when I was into it is a similar style. It's like an anthology, but, or not, I don't know if that's quite the way for it. It's like, there's one character who's like central to it, but like every other character changes their new stories every time. They're like not really connected, but it's
Yeah.
called Mushishi. And it's like, there's like, I guess you could call them ghosts or like weird sort of microorganisms that like can affect people in different ways.
Yeah.
And like every single story is like really sweet, like personal, like it does a great job of fitting a lot into like a not lot amount of time.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this does the similar thing where it like throws
Pretty
a lot
much.
at you in like an episode. So I think
Pretty
that's
much. Like they introduce the characters and have this huge story arc and a dramatic ending in like 20 minutes.
cool. I think that's so good. It's
Yeah.
like bite sized.
Yeah.
There was because I mentioned how much I loved the first mission in Halo, and I won't dredge this back up, but I think Horizon 5 does a similar thing where the first quote unquote like race that you do like bounces around and really has this great spectacle to it. But I think it's really something because like most people don't have a huge amount of time just to devote to that kind of thing. So
Yeah. I love kind of condensing it. you know?
yeah. I think if you could, because it's like, I
It's
think,
nice to have the option to do so.
yeah, what's the famous quote? It's like, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
if you can make something good quickly, like it's like really hard to do, but it's like super impressive. So,
100%.
but that's what I've been excited by. That's what I'll be looking forward to, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it for me. We're going to have recaps for you next time. And,
Yep.
We'll probably branch outside of the games a little bit like we did last. I think we did like album of the year and
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, because there's been some good music. The Spotify Wrapped is out, so we could talk about the music
yeah,
and stuff.
mine
So,
was something.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, so we'll kind of talk about like our favorites that have kind of come out this year. So already hinted at a couple, but we'll go in depth next time.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for being here.
All right, we'll see you next time at the end of the year special.
Alrighty, take
Thanks.
care, guys.